Tokyo Game Show is kind of unique among game shows around the world because they have 2 days that are open only to the industry and media, and then 2 days that are open to the public. That means that the whole thing is geared up towards appealing to the public, but the first 2 days are only, it's only for industry people, so it's really well geared up to handle both sides of that, which is unique. It has a very exciting kind of charged atmosphere on the public days because there's so many people who are just so crazy about games, all coming together, checking out all the games that maybe they haven't had a chance to see in person yet. People get really excited here, and so personally I find it's a really fun game event to come to. There's kind of a carnival atmosphere. It's really worth checking out. So obviously it's Tokyo Game Show, the biggest draw is the games. By far and away the biggest title this year is going to be Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts is a series made by the Final Fantasy publisher Square Enix that's a very beloved franchise. It's got all the different Disney characters in it. So it's a huge game, it's been long delayed, and this is the first time that it's going to be playable by the public here at Tokyo Game Show. So the lines for that are going to be insane. Also Sekiro, which is a game from Software, the makers of Bloodborne and Dark Souls, is over on the Sony booth, and the tickets to play that went instantly this morning, so I'm sure there's going to be a huge demand for that over the public days. Also on the PlayStation booth they have the PlayStation Mini, which is a teeny tiny version of the original PlayStation, preloaded with a bunch of games. It was only announced yesterday and it's there on the show floor. You can't touch it, it's behind glass, but it's there and you can see it sitting next to the original PlayStation, so you can see the size difference and stuff. So that's going to draw a lot of attention. But also Tokyo Game Show, it's not just about playing games. There's a retail area where you can buy goods based on your favorite game, characters, that kind of thing. There's a cosplay area on the public days, which is really fun to look around as well. So all kinds of stuff going on at Tokyo Game Show. So some of the trends in Tokyo Game Show over the past few years and that are noticeable this year. Mobile games have got bigger and bigger and bigger in Japan. Japan is way ahead of the curve on mobile games compared to the West. And at Tokyo Game Show, it's not only console games, there's a lot of mobile games here too. On the other hand, VR is something that sort of seems to have reached its peak a little while ago, and this year it's a little bit flat. There's not a lot of highly anticipated PR titles. There are some good ones over on the Sony PlayStation VR booth, but it's certainly not as much of a buzz around VR this year as there has been in past years. Also esports, it's becoming a big phenomenon globally. In Japan we've been a little bit behind on it, but it's coming to a head here for sure. There's a huge esports stage here at Tokyo Game Show. There has been for a couple of years, but this time JESU, which is the sort of body of all the different esports operators, now that was only formed a few months ago. This is the first time at Tokyo Game Show that they've existed, and so there's a presence for that. Also the various game publishers, Konami and Capcom and Sega and whatever, each publisher has their own booth with their own stage on it, and a lot of these stages we're seeing esports tournaments. Even the IGN Japan team, we're competing in a tournament on the Konami stage to play Super Bomberman R, so we're going to try our best not to embarrass ourselves on that. This year there are a lot of really cool, exciting booths at Tokyo Game Show. There seems to be a lot more energy put into the set design this year for the various booths. For example, if you go over to the Sony booth, there are loads of photo spots where you can pose with a statue of Norman Reedus, who plays a character in a game called Death Stranding that's coming up. So you can pose with a full-size, life-size statue of him. Whereas on the Sega booth, they have a game called Catherine, which is being put out here by Atlas, which is a Sega company. The game itself has a sort of adult theme to it, and so the booth also is slightly adult in theme. You have to kind of walk in through a female character's legs to get into there. It's not as sordid as it sounds, I promise. And Persona as well, which is another game by that company. They have like a sort of a cocktail bar. There's no real cocktails there, but you can sit down at the bar and play a demo of their game. And perhaps the coolest in terms of impact was Capcom are releasing an updated version of their classic game Resident Evil 2. And over on that booth, they've recreated the zombie-infested police station from that game in Raccoon City, so you can go check that out too. Tokyo Game Show, if you're coming to TGS, there are a few things that you should know to prepare yourself. First of all, it's a huge show. They get over 250,000 people through the door every year over 4 days, and especially if you come on the public days, it's super packed. And so don't expect to play too many games in one day, because you are going to line up, especially for the more popular games. So my advice is, if you have a particular game that you absolutely can't go home without playing, make sure you arrive before the doors open, get in line, and make sure you go straight for that game as soon as the doors open, so that you have a chance of getting in. That said, there's also a wonderful indie games area at Tokyo Game Show where you can get your hands on loads of cool games that are less well known. They're made by smaller teams, but they're no less fun to play. So if you're stuck for things to play, definitely check out the indie area at TGS. And I guess the only other main advice I would say is bring a snack with you, because you have to line up for food and it's a little bit expensive and it's not usually that great. So always worth having a rice ball or two on you.